Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. This video is about two parables. Okay, the first is the parable of the low-stock fools who financially sabotage Jesus, and the second is the parable of the process of God's vengeance. They're both fairly short. I'm just going to read them in this video, and then in the next one, I'm going to explore it more, and I'm going to connect it to Psalm 90, verse 12, Proverbs 28, a lot of the verses there, what have you. Okay, so the first parable, the parable of the low-stock fools who financially sabotage Jesus. Once there was a purely evil governing class that came from a long line of arrogant, organized rapists and other assorted, sinful, lowly dogs with money. They hired countless buffoons that were dumb enough to sabotage people without cause for mere money and social acceptance. Among their targets was the top martial artist ever possible, who is obviously the Christos, the anointed Son of God. The governing class was jealous because they knew that he is superior to them, so they targeted him his whole life, and obviously I'm Christ. Along the way, they made it so he paid $1,600 for work that only should have cost $700 to $800, and they tried to rub it in. He said to them, "Look at the timeline so far. Who will regret this in 20 years? The Son of God, or the lowly jealous worms that ripped him off in their childish states of mind, while some of them are twice his age?" They felt like the dogs they are as they were marshaled to hell with their offspring by the thousands every 7 days. Several months later, a man said, "Why do they keep sabotaging people? Who is that dumb?" Christ responded, "They are from a different species that is less human than you are, and as you are less human than the righteous. Yet they have no excuse." The man responded to Christ by saying, "I hope that God curses their families for persecuting Christ and trying to rule over people with their inferior brains and minds. They make everyone's family's lives worse. They make the lives of everyone's families worse." So now, think carefully about this other parable. The parable of the process of God's vengeance. Once a group of rich occultists were mad at the top martial artist ever. He said to them, "You fools, have you never read Psalm 2? It is a very short chapter. You should read it. You conspire in vain. God set me apart. You are better off trying to make amends for your hatred of me. And you should obey God through me instead of trying to mock me by changing my voice and the way I look in my videos and fuming and poisoning me and changing the way I look in person and so on and so forth." They rushed him immediately, throwing stones at him, and they fell into a pit together, as God had anticipated their pathetic actions. As they were dying, Christ said to them, "Even if you had killed my flesh, it would mean nothing. All victories are in principle. Why do you hate me so much when I would have loved you and even married one of your daughters? We would have been family, yet all you desire is to harm me." God's vengeance is triggered automatically when you go after the truly anointed. Clearly, when one goes after God's chosen, by default, it is done without just cause. They said, "We did not want anyone to look up to you." A young female bystander yelled at them, "We do not look up to you. And we know the righteous are all sabotaged, and you people are arrogant, liars, and everyone knows it." With his dying breath, one of them responded, "We are sadistic and sexually immoral snakes, and we are inclined to go into the pit." Christ gave a divine verdict, and the angels marshaled them to a place where people who live in eternal disgrace suffer, knowing that they betray God and His Son. Truly they lead their families to the same fate, and for all they know, they will never stop having offspring in the flesh. If they do not have any children, other people who they mislead do. It would have been better for them that a millstone was hung around their neck at birth, and that they were just literally thrown in the sea. Also, never forget that the moral of the story is what matters, and not how it is written. When the flesh of the Son of God dies, his soul will transform into an even more potent martial arts soul, and he will punish the souls of those who kept him from doing martial arts after 2017 or so forever. He will be in their face with the most intense wrath every so often. There is no raging against God and his Son without paying the price forever. In the next one, we'll get into Proverbs 26:27, Psalm 90:12, and more. Let me just read them real quickly for you. Proverbs 26:27. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. If someone rolls a stone, it will roll back on them. Psalm 90, verse 12. Teach us to number our days so that we may gain a heart of wisdom.